Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm so glad to have you. As you guys know, this is the month we celebrate love and relationships the most. Some people are celebrating Valentine's Day, while others are probably celebrating Galentine's Day with their girls. And some are probably just not finding out that they're side pieces. Just kidding. Anyways, this month's blog content will be centered around relationships. And this Testimony Tuesday is a great way to start the series. So let's get started. Thank you guys for joining me once again for Testimony Tuesday. I'm so excited for you guys to hear about this story. Here we have Gaby and Terrance.
Hey.
Can you guys just go ahead and let the readers and the viewers know why you're here with us today?
Sure. We're here because we want to just kind of say what God has done within our lives and as individuals, and what He is currently doing within our relationship as well.
So go ahead and give us, well, usually I do 3 interesting facts because I usually have one person, but this time I'm going to ask for them to give 2 interesting facts about themselves. So go ahead, let us know.
My 2 interesting facts are that 1, I have been skydiving before, which I feel like is pretty interesting. And 2, that I have lived in another country, which is Ecuador, for 3 whole months. And so that was amazing.
My interesting facts, shoot, my favorite food is teriyaki wings. You know, I love the wings. Drumsticks. I love flats too, but drumsticks are cool. And I've never been out of the country before. I'll stick with that.
All right, so tell us how you guys met.
How we met? Okay.
The real story.
The real story. Okay. Okay, so basically, my roommate, my college roommate, was a small group leader in our church. And so I didn't know this, but Gab and I, we went to the same university in South State. You know what I'm saying? Wow, I was with. We went to the same university, and we had never spoken before. I've seen her, but I still don't think she has seen me, you know what I'm saying, even in those 3 years. But anyway, so we met through my roommate, who was her small group leader, and they would have Bible study in our house. And I was not in church at the time, and so I was never in the Bible study group, and I was really never in church, to be honest, in church at the time, to be honest. And so when she came to visit the church one night, a young adult ministry called Fusion, on Tuesday night, I saw my roommate talking to her, and I recognized her from school. And I was kind of surprised to see her in church, and so I approached her, and I approached them too, but you know, I was wanted to talk to her because I was, you know, she pretty, you know what I'm saying, she looked good, and I was like, okay, yeah, let me go see if I can say hey. And because my roommate knows her, I feel like that's a little easy way into it. So
Yeah, he told the correct story.
Wow.
You got a fake version too.
So what is the fake version?
Ain't no fake version. Here's what happened.
The fake version is he'll be like, so I was in the sanctuary or whatever. I was just praising God, and I was trying to praise and focus on the Lord, but this girl just kept staring at me.
Yep, she sure did.
Mind you, we didn't even sit in the same section.
Mm-hmm.
So he just goes on and carries on with that fake story, which you guys know the real version. So
that's the real version.
Okay, I'm glad we got the real version today.
That's the real version, yes.
So can you guys talk about how you maintain your relationship, your individual relationships with God?
For me, before meeting Terrance, I developed a discipline of having quiet time in the morning. And so just before I start my day, those first 15 to 30 minutes, it depends on how many times I press snooze, but I take that time to read in the morning, read some type of scripture. Oftentimes I'm in a Bible plan, which the Bible app on my phone offers like variety of Bible plans, and so I'm doing that, and then taking the time to pray for some things individually, or I'll take like prayer requests from like friends and things like that. And then sometimes, and even this year, I kind of fell off. Sometimes it's more strong than others, but I take the time to really like write down and journal a few things that I am reading in the Word that really sticks out. Writing down like, okay, how can I apply it to my life? And so that quiet time at the beginning of the day is very pivotal for me.
For myself, how I've maintained my Christian lifestyle, my righteous, my what am I trying to say? My Christian walk, I would say, is really for myself is just to surround myself with godly community. I know where I was, which was heavily in the world and doing secular things. And I was surrounded by my close friends who were also not in church as well. And so when I started coming to church, I started meeting more men of God that who wanted to invite me out to different outings, have dinner, lunch, whatever, or just hang out, watch a game or two. And so I've really cultivated those relationships. And as a result from that, it's given me less of a desire to indulge in the things of the world. And we can have clean fun, we can have safe fun, and it's really a form of accountability for myself, because I know what I used to be into, and I know what I'm not into anymore as well, and I'm grateful for that. But the godly community for sure is really what strengthened my personal walk with Christ.
So you guys have your individual relationships with each other, and I actually know them from church, and they're two strong individuals. You could sit down and talk to them about God all day. Really great people to hang out with and talk to. So how do you guys keep God in the center of your relationship?
Prayer. Like prayer on prayer on prayer.
Lots of praying. I mean, we have boundaries. There was a point in our relationship, we've been together for a little over 3.5 years now, and then the wedding is coming up in the next 6 months. But we've had a point in our relationship in which we were not living how God wanted us to live. And after identifying that, I would say, we did a lot of praying, and we're still doing praying.
Do you want to share?
Yeah, sure.
What do you mean by that God didn't want you to live a certain way, and how you guys transitioned from doing that to trying to live your best for God together?
I would say, even though we both, like you mentioned, like people would know us as people who love God, but walking out the Christian lifestyle, living out the Christian lifestyle, it brings forth its challenges, especially with a lot of influence from other things that will tell you what relationships should look like. And so we each had our own individual desires. So I would say, like, before, yes, we would pray, but I would say the challenges would come in because we had a lack of boundaries. And so, meaning, having sleepovers at his place, or do I have a place? No, I'm going to sleep with my parents. But at his place, or just by the grace of God, we haven't had sex with each other, but just still crossing lines of intimacy that were not healthy, that was not living out a pure lifestyle. And so just really living for the flesh versus for the spirit. And so even just outside of prayer, that looked like getting accountability. We're very fortunate to have an accountability couple who we would share our weaknesses with, and so we would have to check in with them and say okay, here are their boundaries. So if I would be hanging out with him, it's a text to them and just saying hey, I'm hanging out with Terrance, or making sure okay, I'm leaving now, so that I wouldn't be sucked in to spend the night. And so there have been times in our relationship, even now as we get closer to marriage, boundaries get even more challenging, and it's hard to fight off, because I now know okay, this is about to be my husband, but we know that the reward is far much greater to abstain, to do our best to live pure versus just indulging in our fleshly desires.
And you know what, a lot of people always think that, well, you don't really need boundaries, and that it's okay, you guys can do all the things you do together when you're married, or marriage is not even that important. Why do you guys feel the boundaries, how does it help your relationship, and how does it look different? How does this relationship look different than the other relationships where you probably didn't have boundaries?
Sure.
What are the positives?
Yeah. Okay, so this has been the first relationship I've been in that we have had boundaries. And boundaries, they could be something as simple as, we have a curfew. If we're hanging out, 11 o'clock hits, yeah, okay, I gotta go home. You gotta go home, Or a boundary can be, I don't know, just letting our accountability know that, you know, we're together. And it's for myself, it's helped to keep me focused, because not just individual, not just in my individual walk with Christ, but more so just of, you know, keeping me focused on honoring her and like treating her how a husband is supposed to treat a wife, you know, according to God's eyes. And it really keeps, and now I will say this, the boundaries are hard to keep, you know, but it really does keep us focused on just having a pure mindset for each other, pure mindset for ourselves, to kind of, you know, exemplify how God wants us to conduct our own lives. And the boundaries they're good. I mean, I had to get used to them. It was her idea originally, and I was like, I don't want to do none of that, you know. But it helped, you know. And that's what I needed, and that's what she needed that as well. And so now we're just kind of building on top. We're not building boundaries, but from the boundaries as a foundation, we're building on what God wants us to build on top of. So.
And I will also say, like, it helps you get to know a person better. Yeah. Like, you're not focused on just being so caught up in that emotional piece. You're like, I can know you for who you are. Like, when you're not, you know, sometimes in other relationships, like, you'll be together, you spend so much time kissing, it's like, where's the conversation, you know? So I feel like we actually have, you are able to have conversation. You're able to talk to each other like, oh, like, what type of person are you? And so one thing that we learned at one of the different relationship series from church is that, like, your connection shouldn't outpace your commitment. And so when, I mean, just plain as day, like, so it's just important to get to know someone, have that foundation, so I'm not blindsided by anything, or even choosing to say yes to being his wife. Like, I know what I'm getting into because I know him as a person through conversation, through spending time together, through different experiencing different things, and not so much of that emotional type of love, or that, I don't know, irrational type of love. It's more like, okay, this is a thought out decision.
That's good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So with accountability, sometimes, you know, people think, or like for me, I used to think, well, your accountability, it could just be your friend who's like, you know, kind of like on the same place as you, but then they fall through the cracks. What is your accountability? What does that look like? What's true accountability?
I think it looks different. Like, we have accountability on an individual level, and we also have it as a couple. And so on an individual level, I mean, that can be your friend. It can be someone who is on that same level as you, striving towards Christ as well. But sometimes when you tell them, like, oh, you messed up, it's not that same level of conviction that you have. Like, our relationship accountability, it's a married couple. They also go to our church, so they know, I know that they're submitted to God. They both serve in church, and so they're submitted to Christ. They're living it out in their life, and they've been married for, I believe, 10 years now. They have 2 kids, and so they're way ahead of us. So they've been where we have been dating, they've been where we have been in engagement, and so the wisdom that they're able to offer is beyond what someone who is at the same level as you. But we also get advice from people who are newlyweds, because sometimes when a married couple is like 10 years in, you know, sometimes they can forget like what it's like for those initial stages. And so I think that accountability can have different layers in terms of someone who is kind of at the same level, someone who's like a little bit ahead of you, and someone who's way ahead of you. And so you're just getting that wisdom at different points.
So you know what to expect.
Yeah.
So Terrance, for the team. So when did you know Gaby was the one?
What was it, like last month or something? Last week? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, okay.
She was like, you're right.
We met. We met in July of 2015, and July, then in August she went away to a 3-month study abroad trip to Ecuador, and so she came back in November. We hung out more. Okay, I will say this though. I'm skipping over a whole 3 months. While she was away, we were in communication. You know, I didn't think we were going to be talking every day, because I just didn't think that we were, because, you know, I don't know. But we ended up talking every day while she was away. And it was a blessing because it kind of kept me focused when any girl wanted to shoot their shot my way. You know, I was like, nah, I'm actually, you know, actually in the process of talking to somebody right now, you know. And I had to be mindful, like, I could let them shoot their bucket, you know, shoot the bucket, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not gonna, I'm like, let me not do that because I know she's coming back in November. And so when she did, we hung out a lot more, obviously. But it was that spring that I started to notice, she has like wife qualities, you know.
She does.
And I've never been in a relationship in which someone really has a desire to, you know, just like submit and please God through a relationship, you know. And I thought that was kind of cool, and I was like, you know what, she could be somebody's wife. I don't know about, and she maybe I don't know, maybe one day.
And when you say submit, you're talking about just with how much she loves God in her relationship with God and how she treats people through.
Yeah, like she is submitting to Christ, and as me, the man in the relationship, as I'm submitting to Christ, you know. And if I ever feel led to do something, or if I ever feel led that God is leading me to do something or go somewhere, she supports that because, you know, she just submitted to Christ like I am. You know, it's just you know, you have to be willing to be led as well, and she is, and that's a wife quality. That's a Christian wife quality, you know, even that in itself. And so, but probably the spring, that following spring, we started to hang out more and more, and she was already deep in love with me at the time. She already had fallen deep in love, and I was like, bro, you gotta back up, give me some room to breathe or something, you know. But I'm just kidding. It wasn't that serious, but it was to the point where I was like, I could see myself marrying her one day, you know.
So Gaby, when did you know Terrance was the man God created for you?
About day one, boy. Shoot, give me a little kiss. I love you, partner.
Okay. I feel like it was more so a little bit over time. Like, it wasn't just like this one time, wow, this is just it. But I think through my singleness, you know, I took the time to, some people may say this the wrong way, like, oh, the list, but I just took the time to think about, okay, what are my personal values? What do I really value? And so as I was getting to know him, I saw those different values play out. You know, faith is really important to me, you know, having a deep faith in Christ, very family oriented, you know, he loves his family. What other things? Having a sense of humor has always been really big to me. Someone who is passionate, growth. What else is on there?
Dang, she got a good list.
Yeah, but just looking at like,
I'm gonna make my list.
Gotta read about my list.
Qualities that, Lord, qualities that are, which is important to me. And so being able to do life with him over time, I was able to see those qualities come out. Yeah.
So were there any challenging points you guys experienced in your relationship?
Were there? I'm just kidding. Yeah, there were. You want to start there? There still are.
We'll talk about the turning point.
Let's talk about the turning point.
Okay. So.
She can start this.
September 2017.
Last year.
September 2017. We had like just this really big argument. I think I went over his house and he like took my phone or something. I was just like, I'm done. I feel like we were just kept having the same argument over and over again, and I was just like, this isn't it, Lord. I can't deal with this no more, Lord. And so I made the decision to break up. I don't think that was necessarily what he wanted, and I don't think it's necessarily what I wanted, but it was really for the better. And because I would say like the reason we broke up, and I'll let him talk about his piece, but even the breakup really had me to recognize qualities that I needed to grow in. You know, I've always had a desire to be a wife, you know, to join and partner along with someone to impact the kingdom, but I had to deal with some qualities that weren't like God, and so, or weren't Christ-like, and so I had to really deal with selfishness and really realize like, oh man, like if God showed me and it wasn't pretty. And so during that time of breaking up was just I went through a class called Forward at our church, which just takes you through 4 weeks of just learn different things from hearing from God, recognizing unhealthy patterns in your life. And so just going through that process, as well as like they ended with a weekend, going through that process again, it just, God just did his work in me and just helped me to see people differently, really create a sense of humility within me, which in turn makes me a better partner, a better helpmate to be able to join along with someone. And so it was hard, because I think at the end of the day we did want to be with each other, but from my last relationship I just learned, like, okay, God, if this isn't it, I would rather be obedient than try to make something that was not what God really wanted.
Yeah, I would agree with that. For them, you know, okay, we broke up in September 2017. The reason was because I was struggling deeply with like a strong sense of insecurity, you know, and I had, you know, like a lot of other men out there, I've had trust issues with people, with friends, other relationships, and even family members. And so if you let it, it will play out in other areas of your life. And that's dangerous, because you don't know really what areas it may play out in, and when it does kind of show itself, you know, it could be too late, you know. But you know, I had trust issues with her, and when we broke up, the first thing I really did was just try to self-evaluate. But you can only see yourself from a certain lens. You have to go to other people to really see your full self. And so that's why I really value my godly community, my godly men that I hang out with on the regular at this point now, because they're my accountability, and they'll steer up, tell you like, you're in the wrong, bro. Like what are you doing? You know, you're dumb, you know, type stuff. But it's from a good heart. And so during the time of our breakup, it only lasted a month. Yeah. Thankfully, you know. But during that month, I spoke with, shout out to my boy Drew, you know what I'm saying, Kevin, I'm saying, BJ, Corey, love you, man, I'm saying. So during that month, I spent a lot of time on the phone with those guys, and I had a lot of questions for myself that just were not answered. And they didn't necessarily answer those questions, but they did help me to, like, they helped me to calm me down. They kind of helped put a level head on my shoulders, because, you know, after a breakup that you were not expecting, you kind of, the thoughts in your head can really get to you, you know, about yourself. And so they did a lot of work when it was needed. And so that's really what godly community is all about. They're there with you through life's challenges and through life's successes. And you know, you can be someone's godly accountability. You can be someone's godly community as well. And I think that's just really how God wants relationships to be, you know, because they were there for me when I needed them, and I'm there for them when they need me as well. And so that month that went by, it wasn't as bad as it really could have been. But I mean, you know, it wasn't great, you know, but at least I had people in my corner, you know, helping me through the way. So.
And we say it was a turning point. It's really like a reset button, because so we broke up, and then, you know, a few days passed by, then, you know, we started texting each other again. And so it's easy to just be like, oh, well, maybe we should just be together. But our accountability couple just really challenged us, like, if we were gonna give each other that space to really hear from God, to make sure that we're not making just an emotional decision, but a decision that is based upon what's really pleasing to God. And so we could not talk on the phone, we couldn't text each other. Only times we could communicate is if we were to see each other, like at church, but even then it was like we couldn't duck off and like have our own conversation. It had to be within community. And so that was huge. And even so we met up with our accountability couple, and we had to write down, like, okay, what are our new guidelines for our relationship, so that we weren't getting back into that same pattern of, you know, him being insecure about something and me just like blowing up about it, or allowing my anger to take control, and, you know, end up in just these huge fights that were unnecessary. And so we got really, like, probably the most serious time ever in our boundaries. And so we started off like we couldn't even hold hands at first, those first like 3 months, 90 days.
Well, yeah, I mean, we didn't talk, and that time of not talking really was the foundation of the boundaries that were going to be in place. And so I think that was good.
I'm saying, like, when we got back together, we didn't hold hands. Like, we didn't. So after, whatever.
Couldn't look at her.
We couldn't hold hands.
Right.
Blindfold.
Hey, Gab. Hey.
And so after that, those 90 days passed, then we could hold hands, but we decided we didn't want to kiss. And so from getting back together in October all the way up into our engagement in July, except for one time we had one slip up, we didn't kiss. Like, so except for one time, we didn't like really kiss or get back into the habit of kissing until our engagement. So
wow. So this leads up to the next question. For one, I just want to just really commend you guys for being disciplined, because setting boundaries, whether it's in a relationship or as an individual, it takes a lot of discipline, because you're focusing on the end goal and you're focusing on the future. You're not so focused on what you want at that moment. So that's very admirable. So Gabby, can you go ahead and talk about the significance of the month you guys are getting married and the day?
So July is a very special month. So we're getting married July 7th, 2019, 6 months away. So it was just very important because I got out of one of my most serious relationships back in January of 2015, which was very hard for me. Like, this was the person that I thought I was going to marry, and we had overall, was it the most God-honored relationship? No, but from a worldly standpoint, we had a great relationship, and it ended very abruptly because he admitted to stepping out on our relationship, and I just kind of chose, like, that's not something that was my one non-negotiable, being unfaithful. And so I chose to walk away from that relationship. And so during that time was my, like, I'd probably say the time period of my life when I was just most on fire for Christ. That's where I developed that habit of just these morning dates with God. I was just praying bold prayers. And so I was reading this book. I love reading, especially books that help me to grow in my spiritual relationship or my walk with Christ. And so I was reading The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson. And he talks about this idea of doing prayer experiments. And so the premise is just like, be bold in your prayer life. And not only be bold, but then get some people with you, pray together on those specific things. And so me and probably 4 other my sisters in Christ, and I still have the note cards to this day, wrote down like maybe 4 or 5 prayers, and just to be really specific. And mine was just like, I want to marry a man who is completely submitted to Christ, so that we can make disciples and impact lives together. And so I prayed that every day throughout the month of July. And I don't want to make it seem like, oh, God is just this genie, because, you know, our first date was at the end of July. But I just think that I don't believe in coincidences, and I'm just grateful that things lined up in that way. So not only was I just intense in prayer throughout that month, but then July 29th was our first date with each other. July 11th was when he proposed. And the thing was, like, he wanted to propose like way before then, but God in his sovereignty and his perfect timing, you know, it happened July 11th. And so then we're getting married July 7th of 2019. And, you know, 7-7 in the Bible is like a number of completion. And so we're just kind of completing our single lives and moving into a covenant with each other of marriage. And so that is really special. And it's on a Sunday, and you can save money on weddings on a Sunday. So it just works. It works.
Especially in the summer, because I'm pretty sure summer and spring weddings are expensive.
Yeah, July is actually off-peak month. July is an off-peak month, and it's on a Sunday, so it's double savings. Thank you, Sean.
So
double
if you get married,
7-7. Yep.
So when you get married, aim for July or off-peak month.
Yeah, especially because my birthday is July 2nd. You hear that, phone? When you're married?
points.
Okay, so as we wrap up this testimony, can you just go ahead and give advice to someone that's seeking a relationship, especially a godly relationship?
For myself, I would say definitely put in the work to chisel yourself first. Before I met her, I wasn't a secular lifestyle, but after I kind of encountered a lot of drama with that lifestyle, I kind of cut off all ties with like everyone I knew at the time, and I was just like, I don't want to do none of this no more. Let me just go to church. And so I found myself in church on a consistent basis. At that point, it was like every Sunday, or well, it was Tuesday. Young Adult Ministry meets on Tuesday nights, and so I found myself in that ministry every Tuesday night, and I was just taking the time to really allow God to mold me and chisel myself. And then it was when I wasn't trying to be with anybody that she, you know, was all in my face talking about, you cute, what's up, how you doing?
Now we got the real story earlier.
Right. And yeah, so but take the time to chisel yourself first. Take the time to really work on yourself spiritually and emotionally. Make sure like your headspace is there. And then when you're ready, just like pray and like wait, because I mean, you don't want to go out seeking and then grab the wrong one, you know.
I would say just prayer was very important. After getting out of a relationship, I wasn't like just ready to jump back into another relationship by any means, because there's a big gap between our first date and when like our real anniversary is. Like it's like 5 months, because I just want to take the time to get to know him. But I would say if you're interested in dating, just remaining prayerful and don't miss out on God's goodness. I was telling Blessing earlier today of this article that I read on singleness, and it's just like God isn't any more good to us because we're about to be married. Like God's goodness doesn't change based upon our relationship status, and so just don't miss out on God's goodness while searching for a relationship. Just remember God's goodness. What else would I say? Be in godly community. You know, find a church or a group of people who are following Christ, who can encourage you to maintain healthy boundaries. You know, it's good to sometimes, you know, have a break. And us in my small group, which is just a group of people just doing life together and trying to live right together. The girls will get together and do stuff. The guys will get together and do stuff. And so that's helpful as well as a relationship is fostering, because it's just that additional layer of accountability. I would say don't be afraid to, like, not necessarily put yourself out there from a woman's perspective, but if you see a guy like that is interested, like I kind of knew Terrance was interested in me, so I showed
Terrance part of the story is true.
What you mean?
Well, man, you know.
No. I was attracted to him, but and not being afraid to like see that person in different settings, because I did, and that's the part where I'm like, don't be afraid to kind of put your. I showed about his job. He was a server, and I knew he worked there, and I told him like, oh, maybe I'll come visit his job. That we went, like, me and my friend, who's now my maid of honor, shout out to Nakia, went to the restaurant that he was working in, and just being able to see him in a different setting. Like, okay, I've seen you in a church setting, we've kind of served together, but let me pull up and see what you like at work.
That's a good
but I mean, maybe that's not possible, but just observe and see a person how to react to certain things, and also patience. And that patience piece, I think, goes back to like, don't miss out on God's goodness. You know, don't be so relationship hungry that you're missing out on the things that God is already doing in your life.
So, where are you guys now?
Now?
Crawling to the finish line.
Where we at? Where we at?
Crawling to the finish line.
We're still, you know, the cool part about being in a relationship, going towards marriage is it's a journey. And even when you get to be married, I mean, marriage is a journey. You know, we're still learning more about each other. We're still growing. There are growing pains. You know,
Lord.
and so some times of growth for me or for her are uncomfortable. But just learning how to be a strong man of God that's a husband, and a strong woman of God that's a wife, and that's it's a process. It's not overnight, but it comes with godly community. It comes with prayer, maybe even some fasting if you need a fast. It comes with some real stuff, and so. But yeah, we're in a good space.
Yeah. And I would say that one thing that I've learned is that preparing for, first of all, engagement season is very intense. Like, people see all the pictures and engagement and the announcements and the invitations to save the day. But the behind the scenes work, especially in a godly engagement, it gets hard. And so you really have to be on guard, and that's why that foundation as individuals is so important. And just really recognizing, like, marriage and even godly relationships, it's both hard and good at the same time. And I know that's difficult for people, so for some people to maybe wrap their minds around it, but you know, marriage it's oneness, but we're two individuals, so becoming one, that's where the hard part comes in. But the good part comes in learning new things together and being able to serve together and being able to, I mean, we're both very social, so opportunities that we have goals of just like having events at our home where we get to invite people, other married people in, and just different. That's where the goodness comes in. We do have a lot of good, but it's hard to, and what we mean by hard is like just communication, learning to communicate, understanding who he is as a person, learning to support him in different ways, him understanding like who I am, and learning to navigate that. Like, that's where the hard part comes in at. Not necessarily like, one thing I'm grateful for, he's always been very faithful 100% to me, and vice versa. So by hardships, I don't want you to get confused. Like, nah, we've been faithful to each other. We stand firm on that. But the hardships are just other things that just come with pursuing Christ. So we making it. By the grace of God.
Thank you, Lord.
Well, thank you guys so much. Like, I'm just so grateful. I'm so glad this could be part of the series for this month, February. So thank you guys so much for joining me for Testimony Tuesday, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys on the next video.
Deuces.